Hey folks, Real Honesty with Jarmuth Lynn. I'm Jarmuth Lynn. This is the sixth part of my top 100 least favorite horror movies list. Worst horror movies. I decided to call it least favorite because I'm like, worst, well, worst is relative. And honestly, I figure least favorite is like, one, it's a little wordier, but it kind of gets the point across just the same. These are some horror movies that I just hated. I mean, I just flat out hated it. And now we're getting into the top 40 near that. And pretty soon we're going to crack into the top 25. I guarantee you once we start cracking into the top 25, these rants will become a lot more biting. So I probably have, let's see, 44 movies. I probably have close to at least four more parts to do, possibly five. We'll see. But you've been watching to this point, you know how it works. I'm just going to rant about some of them. Some of them I may rant about more than others. But other than that, here we go. Number 44, My Soul to Take. Not the best outing from Wes Craven. I don't know necessarily if he had an off day. This had the feel of... This had the feel of a movie that just shouldn't have existed. Like, Craven always had his finger on the pulse of like good horror and fun horror and stuff like that, and always seemed to have a different view of it, but a view that all of us could appreciate. But, released in 2010, this just wasn't very good. I mean, you had a guy who discovers that he discovers that he's this killer, this ripper, and kills some people, including those close to him. Gets shot down, revives himself in an ambulance, slashes the throat of a paramedic who says that he could house multiple souls, that he might actually be a regular guy, but that there's one bad part of him, like schizophrenic, stuff like that. I mean, now I'm not going to get into the thing about schizophrenia. That's not it. I mean, this movie certainly isn't deep enough to talk about that. I'll talk about that mental illness. But then, this movie just limps along. Like, you got, like, two orphan kids are left, and of course they grow up, and all these kids seem to share, all these people that are being targeted seem to share the same birthday, and this entity is coming back to kill them just because. I mean, there's not a lot of focus to it. I mean, it's really really shit. I mean, it's just really shit. It's not inventive with the kills. It's not very. It's dark in the sense that, like, sometimes you can't quite see what's going on, but for what this movie had, especially with Wes Craven, and especially with a couple of the cast members, this just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. It's like the whole thing of, who it ends up being. I mean, it's no real surprise. It had it had the feel of studio meddling. Like, it wasn't as bad as Cursed, and don't get me wrong, Cursed will make its appearance on here, because Cursed was crap. But My Soul to Take deserves to be on here, because it just, watching it, you're just like, you see there's a sliver of potential, just a sliver. It just seemed like this was a misfire from Wes Craven, and maybe it wasn't all his fault, but it just wasn't very good at all. And now we go to number 43, American Poltergeist. Well, people are in a house that that you can seemingly easily escape from, yet they don't. Stupid scares happen, stupid deaths happen. It's a very, very, very low budget movie. You have the creepiest hostess on the face of the planet. Somebody who is so obviously evil. She might as well just have tattooed, "I'm evil, you want to get out of here." She would have to have, "I'm evil, get out of here." She would have it near her mouth, because that's probably how she got the role. I'm sorry, but I can't think of any other way that this woman got the role, except maybe she was friends with the producer or the director or something, because she was awful. And nobody in this cast was any good. It was trash. It was trash all around. 100%. It had the feel like, okay, we're just going to produce something just to make a quick buck. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking a cheap horror movie concept, having a low budget, and making something of it. This one failed to do that. The scares weren't good. The whole thing with the TV wasn't very inventive. And again, the hostess chick, it's like, how in the world could no one see that this woman was evil and that maybe we shouldn't be in this house? And oh, one of us is probably going to end up being the target of, like, some kind of possession, or is going to be related in some way to all the killings and, tied back into the house. And that's what ended up happening. It was crap. It was so embarrassing. And it was almost like, it was worse than American Poltergeist 2, which was actually called the Poltergeist of Borley Forest, which wasn't very good. I mean, but I'm going to pass that one off because American Poltergeist was far more frustrating. And 42, Friend Request. I did a review of this when it came out. I think we saw Kingsman, and then we saw this. And then I had to go the next day to like work very, very early, so I was very tired. Friend Request, I'm just going to refer to my review here. Not scary, not inventive, very low budget. I think the movie actually came out in 2014, and somehow they felt the need to release this in theaters in a wide release, thinking that it was going to make money. I don't know how much money it made, but it probably cost more to turn on the lights in the theaters than it cost, or to get clearance for the, to run it in theaters than they made. I can't. If this movie's budget was over $1 million, I'd be surprised. Yeah, it was pretty shit. The cast, whatever, wishing the best, but this movie's just trash. Number 41, 2 movies, Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. 1 completely undid the story. Number 2 completely undid the story from number 1. Absolutely ridiculous. The original actress didn't want to be in this, or at least they didn't want to. They didn't want to do the continuation of like, Angela, at the end of the first one, was actually a boy. It was actually the boy of the brother and sister duo that wasn't killed and was living as a girl. They went with this where it's like, it wasn't even the same actress. She didn't even look the same. And I mean, look, I know it's a horror movie. I know they do casting changes all the time for this kind of stuff. But for continuity, they didn't do a very good job. The second one had stupid kills. I think this one had the outhouse kill. And it might have been the third one. I know the third one had a lawnmower kill that was really bad. But fun fact about the second and third one, they were filmed within 6 weeks of each other. And they even used the same sets. Like, they dressed it up slightly different, but you could tell it was the same sets. And that made it more comical. Now, the second and third one were played more for laughs, and I get that. But the fact that any of these that no one saw what was happening in the second and third one, that no one in any kind of authority position, or anybody that was, anybody that was on the campgrounds is like thinking, people are dying. I probably should either A, try to figure this, or just get out of here. And no one thought of getting out of there. And it never seemed like they couldn't leave. It seemed like they didn't know how to leave. Like they were just stuck in a loop and they could only run around every 50 yards. I mean, both of them were just such trash, and that's why they deserve to be on here. Number 40, Apollo 18. It was found footage, it was in space, and it had to do with little meteor crab creatures appearing and killing. I think. I'm not exactly sure if they were meteor crab creatures, spider creatures, or if they were just alien rock. Moon rock, oh wow. MST, Track of the Moon Beast. I don't know what the deal was. It was a very small cast. You had a guy and a Russian guy at one point who had landed, but they tried to figure out what happened to this Apollo mission. And really, it was frustrating, it was stupid, it was nothing scary about it, and I was willing to give it a chance. I mean, the found footage stuff, sometimes it gets near the end of the movie, closer to the end where they finally, the studio decides to throw some budget in and we can actually do some shit instead of walking around and acting scared. But the idea is there's creatures on the moon, alien creatures on the moon. Okay, so what if there are? They were infinitely more interesting than any of the human characters here. And of course, the guy is thinking he's all happy, and then of course, creatures come in the you know, his pod and kill him, and hooray because something finally happened. Apollo 18 made me angry. I mean, it made me really, really angry. It bad. It was so bad. It was just explosively, apocalyptically bad. Just, it was. I mean, I remember hearing that on a YouTube video. I don't remember which one, but I decided it was a good way to describe it. Apollo 18 made me angry. It's like I didn't, very few movies before this I actually wanted to punch. If this movie had been a person, I would have punched it. I mean, whoever directed it, whoever started, sorry, if you wrote it, if you directed it, sorry, fuck you, you should never be allowed to do anything again. Because you directed an abortion of a movie. This was crap. Number 39, The Reaping. Well, a bunch of deadly sins happen. Anna Sophia Robb, I believe that's who that is, the girl that was in Race to Witch Mountain. Witch Mountain, one of them. That was a fun movie, by the way. Race to Witch Mountain was fun. You had Hilary Swank in it. She shockingly did not gnaw her way through anything. I'm kidding, I'm sorry. Hilary Swank seems like a fine actress. I just can't get over the teeth. But The Reaping, it was like this southern... It was set in like the South, and it was supposed to be like this biblical thing. It was like biblical plagues and crap and whatever, and it was... None of the plagues were scary. It was so by the goddamn numbers that you're watching, you're thinking, what the fuck, seriously? This is it? This is the best you could do? And it seemed like it seemed with the scope of it that it would have had a decent sized budget. I don't know. If this movie cost more than $10 million, I'd be surprised. Because while the scope seemed like it should have been bigger, one, I mean, it's like you can easily get annoyed with any of the characters. You don't really feel any sympathy for Anna Sophia Robb's character, Hilary Swank's character. You don't feel any sympathy for any of the people that are supposed to be the heroes. None of the scares are scary. Storyline shit. It was bad. And all those plagues, or you know, any of the biblical shit that happened, it was stupid. It's like why does this exist? The Reaping, The Reeking is more like it. That's what it should have been called. Number 38, Blair Witch 2016 edition. I will get to another Blair Witch movie later in this countdown. But Blair Witch 2016, guy wants to go and look for his sister Heather. We've got all these plans and all this technology, and you know, we got all this stuff, and we're going to stake our claim, we're going to mark ourselves as to where our path is, and we're going to really get out there, go to Blair Witch Woods, and we're going to figure out what happened to my sister. Oh shit, first sign of trouble, we're lost, we're never going to get back, we're never going to get this. First off, the brunette in this movie, absolutely beautiful. I don't remember the actress's name offhand. I don't, sorry. Movie was trash. She was great. She was very... She wasn't too bad in the movie, and she was easy on the eyes. I mean, sorry, just she was. And I actually do wish the cast the best. I think that the cast tried. But there was no material for this. And they hyped this up as gritty, as, you know... like a really, you know, gritty... bloody, vile edition of the Blair Witch. And I mean, look, don't get me wrong, they turned up the violence. They also had a bigger budget. Again, this wasn't as bad as another Blair Witch themed movie that I'm going to get to later in the countdown, but it was still really bad. It was anger inducing because it's like, okay, this happened. Oh no, that person's dead. Well, they're dead. Oh, we're stuck in the woods. Oh no, how will we ever get out? How about you just keep walking? It didn't have that sense of the haunted woods. I mean, even the first one was like silly, where it was just obvious they were just walking around. And even though the woods, I'm sure, could get kind of deep there, in Maryland, I believe is where it was, I'm sure the woods can get deep. The woods can get deep here in Washington. As I point over to, you know, some locations you're not aware of, they can get deep in Washington, and you can get lost. The problem is this movie doesn't capture that, and it makes the characters very irritating. And also the whole thing, they find the house that allegedly was the house that Heather was in, and he's trying to look for her, and no, he finds something else, an evil entity, and a very evil entity, and it tries to be like what the Evil Dead remake was, but the Evil Dead remake was good, and even the original Evil Dead wasn't that bad. It was cheap, but that was a pumped up edition. This was kind of the same thing where the original Blair Witch was really really cheap. This was the pumped up edition of it, and it was just frustrating. It was an exercise in frustration. Watching these actors just reek. I mean, I'm sorry, it's like I know what I said about the brunette that was in, and she did again. The cast did what they could. It wasn't something that was going to win any acting awards, but it was supposed to be scary, and it wasn't. I think there was one time maybe I jumped, and I don't even know. I think it was because I was tired. I was like, "Ooh, jump scare." Okay, but that was about it. Everything else was like, okay, evil. House is clearly, house is clearly possessed. Oh, I've done terrible things. I'm sorry I brought you all out here. Yeah, well, sorry, ain't paying the bills. Time to die by the demon's hands. It was bad. It was really bad. And now we go to number 37, Gothica. Halle Berry and I think Robert Downey Jr. was in it. Somebody was in it. I only remember Halle Berry in it. And I remember it being terrible. I mean, it was any kind of... It was a weird type of horror movie. It was not as horrifying as Catwoman. But Catwoman does not deserve to be on here because it's not a horror movie, even as horrifying as it was. But Gothica was one of those that tried to be different and artsy, but just ended up coming across as overly gritty for the sake of being gritty and stupid. That's really all I have to say. It was really, really bad. Me and one of my best friends at the time, I mean, this was like, I think 2003 that we saw it. I think it's when it came out in theaters, 2002, 2003. I didn't write down all the years for these movies because I ran out of room on the paper. But Gothica was really bad. I mean, it's just really bad. It's really boring, and it's like we're watching. It's like they tried to make it like a bit of like a whodunit. No one cared about any of this stuff. And also Bless the Child. I'm gonna throw Bless the Child in on this because I had Kim Basinger, and it was about children and demons and trash. Kim Basinger did a lot of trash after LA Confidential. Of course, that's because she tried to buy her own damn city, or her own damn town. You stupid person. What the hell were you thinking? Gothica was crap. Blessed Child was crap. Now we move on to number 36, Cabin Fever. I don't fucking care what anybody says. This was shit. Serena Vincent was fucking gorgeous. This movie was shit. Ryder Strong was in. I mean, he was fine. I didn't even have an issue necessarily with the main cast. Serena Vincent, again, beautiful. Beautiful brunette. Should have been better in Hollywood. I don't know. Maybe she's still making movies. I don't have a clue. I know she was in a movie called It Waits. That was terrible. But she was good in this. I mean, it's just... the problem, it's a flesh-eating bacteria that basically... there's this homeless person, and a homeless or crazy person that ends up getting killed and thrown in the water, and his, his microbes and whatever disease he had mutates the water and causes mutation and flesh-eating bacteria and all that in people. Okay. And then there was a weird slow-motion karate kid, I think it was a girl or a boy. I don't remember, at this old gas station convenience store shop, which was ridiculous. I think Eli Roth had something to do with this, which might explain why I didn't like it. Because I don't get the appeal of Eli Roth. I mean, whatever. I mean, he's made millions. Good for him. But it's just, this was... Cabin Fever was bad. It was another one, a bunch of people a few people go to a cabin. We got this tainted water. And instead of leaving, when you find out it's tainted, you panic like bitches, and then you take a bath, and then you have the flesh-eating bacteria, and then Serena Vincent has sex with a guy, and has the flesh-eating bacteria, and then he gets it, and it's a vicious cycle. I almost went for Cabin Fever Patient Zero, but I decided to go with this one. Because this is another one that angered me, and it angered me terribly. I don't know what it necessarily was about this, but it just angered me. It just was bad. I didn't get the appeal. It's like, why is it, this movie's known as Bloody Disgusting? Okay, not the site Bloody Disgusting, which actually does some pretty good does some pretty good stuff. Pretty good reviews. It's like, I believe they're a production company also, but I think they do reviews. I mean, it's like one of the two. I lose track of some of this stuff, but it was irritating, and it just wasn't. It's like okay, this was like exploitation horror, and it was pretty horrifyingly stupid. Like it counted on everybody making stupid decision after stupid decision to get somewhere, and it was bad. And now we go to number 35, probably the last one I'm going to talk about in this video, Amityville Haunting. Well, what happens if you go to the Amityville house, you set up a bunch of cameras, and you try to find out what the problem is? The dad yells a lot. And the camera work isn't very good. And everybody just kind of sits around. And some horrifying stuff maybe happens. You're not sure, because a lot of it doesn't happen on camera. And even when it does, the camera gets really wonky. None of the acting's good. It goes all over the place at first, and then centralizes on the house. It was bad. It was bad. And it's like, watching this, you're like, okay, I can kind of see if they're trying to tell something different. And by the way, the Amityville Horror remake is not on here, because that was actually decent. It was decent, and it didn't have the dog being the best actor in the damn movie like in the original one. And sorry, James Brolin's beard does not count, even though it was better than anybody else in the movie. But Amityville Haunting, cheaply made, cheaply produced, and one of those where you're like, okay, I'm really trying. I tried to give it like 30 minutes before I started ripping into it. I made about 15. I was like, okay, wait, maybe it'll get better. No, it got worse. And the scares just weren't there. Even for a cheap horror movie, if scares were there, I wouldn't have cared. Even as bad as the acting was. But it was bad. Just really, really bad. So that's where I'm going to leave this off. Actually, you know what? Nope, one more. It was going to be I Know Who Killed Me, which was a Lindsay Lohan movie, and it was really, really bad. It was very, very bad. And in fact, I'm going to leave it on here, but I'm going to give a shout out to Cursed. And I talked about earlier, Christina Ricci and whoever played her brother, I don't even remember the guy's name, get cursed with a werewolf curse. And the werewolf looked very fake. And it had the feel of studio meddling. It was really, really bad. Yeah, Christina Ricci made some odd movie choices. That felt like she was forced to do something, though, and less like she wanted to do it. And Wes Craven should have made... That would have been a lot more fun if the studio hadn't interfered with Wes Craven. But Cursed deserves a mention. I Know Who Killed Me was just... It was like Lindsay Lohan trying to break out of the Freaky Friday and the Mean Girls stuff and whatever, and trying to do gritty, trying to do more adult stuff. Even though I like Mean Girls and I thought that was fun, I'm watching, I'm like... It makes no sense. She knows who killed her, but then she's in a strip club and she's in a bed with some weird guy, and I didn't care who killed her. The character. I'm not talking about Lindsay Lohan herself. That's her business, what she does. I didn't care who killed her. And clearly the producers didn't care either. Because even the reveals, like, okay, whatever. Okay, roll credits. So that's where I'm going to leave that off. So, got 33 more movies to do. Probably going to record another one at some point soon. So anyway, whenever this goes up, thank you guys so much for watching. Do you agree? Do you disagree so far with what I said? Do you think I was too harsh on the movies? Well, kind of the point of least favorite lists. You're too harsh on them. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Twitter links in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you all soon.